Shut up! I'm listening to Zdenek's English podcast.
You're listening to Zdenek's English podcast, by far the greatest English podcast on earth for English learners since sliced bread. My name is Zdenek and I'm your host.
Hello listeners of Zdenek's English podcast. Welcome to another episode, and I'm recording this one in my room in Poděbrady. So I'm in the Czech Republic and I am not doing a video. So I may actually publish this on my YouTube channel, but there won't be any video. Another thing I would like to say is that I have decided to take on a challenge. I don't want to use any sounds in this episode. And I know it's going to be hard because I have been using it my entire life. Also when recording episodes of Zdenek's English podcast and other podcasts. But I would like to try. And I think there is a way to do it. I think there is sort of a trick in doing this. Number one is I always have to keep it in mind. I have to stay aware and mindful of this challenge, right? So if I keep it in mind, like every single time I utter a sentence, and it's always on my mind that I cannot say, by the way, this one doesn't count because, of course, I did that on purpose. But I just have to stay mindful. That's the sort of trick number one. And the second one is that I just have to make longer pauses. I've recently discovered one football podcast. You know, I listen to a lot of football podcasts. My app is full of it. You see, I did a small I guess if it's a small one, we can consider it a slip, right? Basically, in this podcast, I noticed that the host, who seems to speak some sort of either northern UK accent or is it Scottish accent? I don't know, but the point is that I really like the way this guy talks. There could be another reason for it. It could be that he just edits out his all ums. But that takes ages to do. Imagine you record an episode and it's 1 hour long. Editing such an episode might take up to 3 hours. And I really don't have so much time. It would not be sustainable doing this long term anyway. So maybe he's just so good that he knows exactly how to speak. He doesn't stress out, when he speaks slower, because this is something that maybe happens to me sometimes. So I think he doesn't stress himself. He just knows how to speak at the right pace, and he knows when to make pauses, because it's the pauses that also help you think, right? It's not just the sounds. It has the same effect. You can make a pause like this, or you can say, and it has the same effect. However, making pauses, I think, is sexier. In whatever sense you understand this word. You know what I mean? It just sounds better. I think the pause sounds better than the sound, which I think the best public speakers are trying to unlearn or avoid. Whereas when it comes to making pauses, this is something they have to learn, right? To use it effectively. Because the pause does not only help you think as the person speaking, it also helps the person listening. Yeah, of course you must not make the pause too long, and it's possible that you forget what you wanted to say, or it's possible that you just don't know anymore what you are saying. And that's fine. That's fine. There are some other tricks you can employ, such as using some language for forgetting what to say. I have been telling you about this language before on this podcast. For example, I just made a slip. Did you notice? I said, It's hard, isn't it? But, the point is, whenever you challenge yourself to do anything in life, anything difficult, the point is that you try, right? you don't have to succeed. I mean, the idea is that you do really well, right? But if you don't succeed 100%, it still counts because you have tried. You've given it your best. And that's the idea here. So that's one thing I'm doing in this episode of Zdenek's English podcast. Another thing I should tell you is that I am using new... By the way, I said that's because there is a word in English, and in this case, I just stretched it a bit, yeah? So it's another sort of way to, I've done it again. you see, I have to focus. Anyway, I wanted to say that I am using a wireless microphone. I bought a new one. Oh my God, I did it again. You know, sometimes it helps. Sometimes it really helps, doesn't it? But I'll keep going, guys. I'll keep going no matter what. I have to keep in mind, Zdenek, try to make pauses instead. Whenever you have to think, whenever you need more time, stop saying I guess I'm being a bit too harsh on myself. But anyway, it's a challenge. That's the plan. I may not do this ever again. This might be the last time I'm doing something like this. But I think it's worth trying. So, I'm using a new wireless microphone. It's the Rode Wireless Go 2. It's a pretty decent microphone. I wanted to upgrade my gear that I use for podcasting. So this Wireless Go 2 is great for several reasons. One of them is that it's a really good microphone with good sound, and it has... oh no, I did it again. You see, at least I'm aware of it. This is going to become very distractive to you as the listener, isn't it? But I think you will forgive me because you know what I'm trying to do here. So, the sound is good. It has good reputation, great reviews online. And as well as that, I have got 2 transmitters, like 2 microphones. And this means that I can interview a guest. Obviously, I can do all of this online easily and have a video. But sometimes you just meet someone in real life, right? You don't do all your episodes online. And I've done many episodes like that in the past, right? When I was somewhere outside, sometimes even in a pub or in a noisier environment. And what I had to do each time is to use my Sony recorder, which is, by the way, amazing. But it would pick up all the background sounds. Whereas this is sort of another level. Because I've got 2 transmitters, one for myself, as in 2 microphones. I attach it to my shirt or t-shirt, and one for my guest. And they do exactly the same. By the way, I said they because in English, when you use the pronoun they, it's because you don't know if it's a he or if it's a she. So you just say they. It's very flexible in that. You could say he or she, but they is actually preferred these days. Yeah, so exciting times ahead. I have got a new microphone. You do have to obviously charge it. I think the battery life is about 7 hours, or at least that's what they say. And I had to figure it out. I was a little bit struggling when I received it. I was struggling to learn how to use it. But I managed in the end, and now I know. So I'm recording this episode with it. So that's another piece of news. And then there are a few other things I would like to talk about. So first of all, I want to talk a little bit more about my other podcast, the Footglish podcast, which I have recently started. I don't know if you've noticed, but now I have 3 podcasts. Zdenek's English podcast, Zdeňkův český podcast, which is my Czech podcast, and this football podcast, the Footglish podcast. So, yes, 3 podcasts. I would like to talk about that a little bit. Then I will give you my update on my summer, how I've been doing here in the Czech Republic, because as you know, before I came, I was living in Vietnam. I know there was a small but it was really tiny. I don't think it counts. By the way, if you want, you can just make ticks each time I use There was another one. You can make a tick. And you can make a really short tick or a small tick. If it's You can make a small one if it's a small or short and you can make a big one if it's a It's up to you. Right. Then I've got a special offer for you, for my listeners, because I've realized that I haven't done it for a while. I would like to offer you a membership in my group, the Achievers Chamber, for 75% off for the following month. That's because I just want to show new people. I want to give a chance to people who may have thought, oh, it's too expensive, 20 euros, Zdenek, I don't know if I should even try. Right, you have a chance to try very cheaply now and to see for yourself. So that's another thing I want to talk about. And lastly, oh no, there was another one. I would like to talk about See, it's not easy. Have you tried, before you laugh at me, have you tried? You should try yourselves. Yeah, I would like to talk about a possible motorcycle course that I'm going to take soon. Right. So, where do we start? Where do we begin? Okay, let me talk about the Footglish podcast first. So the Footglish podcast is a brand new podcast. It's called the Footglish podcast. What's Footglish? Is that a real word? It's kind of a word that I made up. It's one of those words which are a blend. A blend is like a mix of two words combined, right? Foot stands for football, right? So I took the initial syllable, the initial 4 words from the word football and removed the rest. So that's first part of the word Footglish. And then glish, that comes from the word English. So I remove the E, letter E, and that leaves me with glish, Footglish. Brilliant, isn't it? I mean, I think it's a good idea. I haven't found any other Footglish podcasts online, so I thought it was quite unique. I wonder why. It could be because it's hard to pronounce. I think it actually is not too bad. I really got used to it fast. Footglish, I did mess it up a few times at the beginning of the podcast, but now it's mostly my guests. Sometimes they want to wish good luck to this new podcast and they mispronounce it, or they make a mistake in the way they say it. But let me tell you more about this podcast. So it is a podcast about football. How is it different from Zdenek's English podcast? Well, there is the same host, Zdenek, being me. That's me, yeah. And I know I did it again. But I've been trying really hard. I have been trying so hard. I hope you see it. So the Footglish podcast is about football. Basically, it's about learning football with English. And the reason I started this podcast is because 4 of my clients, 4 of my private students, my one-to-one online students, come from the football industry or from the football field. I've teach some journalists, and now I also teach one manager, a football manager. So I thought I might as well do something for them and try to see if I can get more clients from this field, because I'll be honest with you, it's almost a dream come true for me as an English teacher. I've always been sort of picky when it comes to who I teach, how I teach. Not picky may not be the right word. I've always been sort of, I don't know, it's like a bohemian, like when people live a bohemian lifestyle, they sort of do what the hell they want and they don't want anyone to tell them what to do. Well, that's kind of me when it comes to teaching English. Like, I do respect my colleagues. I respect the theory. I have good qualifications. I'm well qualified as an English teacher. But there came a point where I sort of realized that I really want to do things my way. And that's because I genuinely believe it can be an effective way. But also because sometimes when you are confronted with the reality of following a syllabus or using a specific course book, you realize that it's not enjoyable. It's quite boring, for the student. Instead, these days, I just teach through a conversation. Yeah, that's my common way to teach. I would say 99% of all my students. We just have a conversation about life. We talk about the recent, maybe even decent, development in the world. For example, these days we have had the Trump assassination attempt. So we would talk about that because it's kind of big news, right? It's a big item of news. And sorry about that one. That was an accident. That was just a mishap. So this obviously is something we talked about with my students. Then there was some sort of blackout. There was some kind of update thing that happened recently, right? And it disrupted the internet. So that's something we would talk about. Sometimes it's the more taboo topics, more controversial stuff. Sometimes we even talk about the geopolitical situation. But it really depends on my students' interests. And do you know what? By far, the best topic is football. I know some of you don't like it. I know some of you don't watch it. In which case, I completely understand that this is not for you. And the podcast is definitely not for you. And you wouldn't take lessons with me talking about football. That only makes sense, doesn't it? But if you think about it, if football is your passion, if it's one of your interests, it's just the best topic to talk about. Because the student will remain motivated. The student always has things to say, I should say, right? There's always something to talk about because there's so many matches happening all the time. So many different competitions, club football, international football, rumors, band players, different sort of decisions of VAR, the video assistant referee, and so many things you can discuss. It's unbelievable. You cannot imagine. And then, if this is someone's job, if football is someone's job, and I'm helping them learn English, for example, I teach some journalists, football journalists, then they have some specific needs as well, right? They need to learn to use specific language. They need some sort of feedback to help them with their pronunciation, with the choice of vocabulary, grammar, and everything. And that's where I come in, right? Because I watch a lot of football. I watch a lot of matches with English commentaries. I do a lot of podcasts, football podcasts, even more than English learning podcasts these days. It's just the way it is. I listen to a lot of podcasts about football because it's really enjoyable for me. So that is why it made sense for me to start the Footglish podcast. And I started it when Euro got underway. So it was about one day before that, I think. And I gave my listeners my predictions as to who I thought would win the Euros. Now, what's great is that I have managed to invite a lot of wonderful guests onto the Footglish podcast already, including Luke Thompson twice, Martin Johnston twice, and others. Basically, it's easier because all these guests, they love talking about football. It's something they don't have to think about or prepare for. It's something they would do anyway. They would watch those England matches anyway. And I had some listeners from other countries, like I had some Polish guests, I had a guest from Ukraine, I had a guest from Italy, I wanted to cover as many countries as possible. I wasn't able to do it all, but then there was one guest from Spain, the Netherlands. So that was great because, of course, different countries, different nations participated in Euro 2024. And obviously, I wasn't able to talk about everything, but I did what I could. And the Footglish podcast is, I think, it's basically sort of an evolution from Zdenek's English podcast in some way. And that's because, when you start your first podcast, you make a lot of mistakes because you're learning. When the first time I did Zdenek's English podcast, my first few years of recording it, I was learning. I would say you are always learning. I'm still learning, of course. But imagine after a decade of recording Zdenek's English podcast, you sort of know. You know better, right? You've learned. You've developed certain skill set, and you can deal with situations better. You know how you should approach some weird situations, or not weird situations, but sort of moments of hesitations or moments of when you say something wrong, or when you hesitate, when you say things in a weird way, you try to fix it, right? And you are just more or better equipped with a skill set. Your English gets better as well, especially if English is not your first language. But even if English is your first language, you have to learn how to speak. You have to learn how to say the things in the right way, in an engaging way. You have to work with your voice as well. Intonation is important. Stress. All that. So this Footglish podcast, I've tried to learn a lesson from the previous podcast, right? I've tried to do things better, or I am trying to do things better than on Zdenek's English podcast. Now, you could say, does that mean that Zdenek's English podcast is your number 2 podcast now, Zdenek? No, I still do Zdenek's English podcast. It's just not as regular as before, because the priority now has to be the Footglish podcast. As you guys know, Zdenek's English podcast is not a monetized podcast. There's nothing I do for patrons or for people who would support me. There's nothing at the moment. There used to be, but it didn't work very well. So that's why with the Footglish podcast, I bought a jingle, I bought a logo. When I say I bought it, I asked someone on Fiverr to do it for me. Obviously, I paid them for that. Yeah, so it was, that was a short one. I haven't done it for a long time, though. I'm quite proud of myself. I've managed to avoid doing these I think it's just about practice, really. You just have to be aware at all times and then keep practicing, I suppose. So maybe this is not the last time I do this. But going back to the Footglish podcast, it's much shorter than episodes of Zdenek's English podcast. I mean, I am about 23 minutes into recording this podcast, and the Footglish podcast, it would probably end there, or at least the interview part. There is the interview part. Each Footglish podcast episode has the interview part, which is the main part. Sometimes it's my monologue, and then there's a pause, there's a short jingle, which splits this part with the second part. And in the second part, I just explain some vocabulary, or I teach something. Sometimes it's grammar, pronunciation, doesn't matter. Sometimes it's shorter, sometimes longer. But the point is, this is an English learning podcast. So I have to showcase my abilities to teach English, right? So that's why it's not just the interview, even though it's really the main meat of the episode. But then there is a little language corner bit. I call it the language corner because I thought it's quite a good name, it's quite a fitting name, since corner is a set-piece situation in football. So I thought to myself, I might as well call it a language corner. Yeah, so where can you find the Footglish podcast? I always say you can find it wherever you listen to your podcasts, wherever you get your podcasts. Spotify, the usual places, Spotify, Apple Podcasts. Just find it in your podcasting app. You should be able to do that. Make sure you subscribe, especially if you like football. Like if you don't like football, the question is, would you want to listen to the Footglish podcast? Maybe you would. If I get some interesting guests like Martin or Luke, you just maybe like listening to these guys. That's fine. That's okay. I've had several people from native English-speaking countries on as guests, but I also had a lot of other cool people with amazing English on the podcast from countries where English is not the first language. And these episodes were equally amazing. So I highly recommend it. Most of my episodes of season one of this podcast was basically just about the Euros, about Euro 2024 in Germany. Now, I've recently started season 2, and that's going to basically last for 1 year until the end of the football season. The football season is starting now. Some leagues are still not interrupted, that's not the right word. There's the pre-season, right? The leagues start, for example, in 1 month, like the Premier League. But some other leagues are starting now, like the Czech League, the Czech First League. Now you might be saying to yourself, but Zdenek, who cares about the first Czech League? And I would completely understand. But, I'm Czech, I'm from the Czech Republic, so I talk about the Czech League a little bit as well. I also invite you to join the Fantasy Czech League. There's a code in the description of each episode. And of course, there will be the FPL, Fantasy Premier League. There's already a link in the description of the episode, of any new episodes as well. But that's about it. I don't want to speak about this for too long. This is the Footglish podcast. I hope you guys like it. Definitely check it out. Some episodes are also available on my YouTube channel, the Teacher Zdenek YouTube channel. Those that I record online, they usually are. And there is one episode with my cousin Honza. And I know you remember Honza. Some of you, the long-term listeners, remember Honza from the Road to Civilization series, right? Which I used to record on this very podcast. Moving on. What's my update? What have I been up to? How am I enjoying my summer here in the Czech Republic? What's it like to be back in Vietnam? I think I told you some things already. The weather is cool. It's sometimes hot as well, but it's nowhere near as hot as in Vietnam. I basically don't even sweat. And most people do, but the humidity level is so low. My body is just used to much hotter climate now, right? Coming back from Vietnam. So for me, this is actually not too bad. One thing that I noticed is that I have put on some weight. And that's because of my eating habits. Now actually, I am back at my weight that I was before I went to Vietnam, which was around 90 kilos. Not exactly happy about it, but I know why it's happening. I'm just eating more. I'm eating more dairy products. And I guess I move a little bit less, but I'm not so sure about this, It's not necessarily true because I go running, I go to the gym, I cycle a lot. I think it's mostly about what I eat, really. I think the cuisine is healthier in Vietnam. I just think it is. And also the fact that I don't sweat so much. But I'm not under the impression that I cannot handle this. I think I can. I think I can have it under control. I just need to slow down with eating some rubbish stuff, right? I need to cut down on eating some nonsense things, and I'll be fine. And if not, I know when it comes to a certain point, when it's too much for me to handle, I'll just be hard on myself and I'll just stop eating too much and start losing weight. It's easier for someone like me because I can always combine it with sports like some cardio, running, whatever. And that means I can do it much, much faster than normal people. When I say normal people, I mean other people, let's say, not normal people. That's the wrong word. Yeah, my sleeping is a bit better. I sleep more, I think. I wonder if it's because it's much cooler at night as well. I wonder that if this plays any part in it. Also, I wake up earlier in the morning. Not exactly at 7 a.m. as most people do, or 8, but maybe at 9, sometimes at 10, which is obviously much better than waking up at 1 p.m. as I did in Vietnam. So I have, to a point, managed to fix my sleeping habits, which is great. Now, what's been nice is the opportunity to catch up with everyone, including my family members and friends. That's been great. I'm really happy that I had the opportunity to do this. I also had several surgeries. I had one surgery because something had grown on my back. It's like some sort of a lump. It wasn't serious. It's called actually asteron. Asteron? It had a weird name, and it sounds like there's some kind of an asteroid or something, or an alien. Actually, it wasn't pleasant aesthetically, especially aesthetically. I did not like it. It did not hurt or anything. Sometimes when I leaned my back against the wall, it felt slightly uncomfortable, but it was never really a big issue other than it didn't look good. So I decided to sort it out. One of the reasons I came back to the Czech Republic was because I wanted to have a surgery. I didn't feel like having it done in Vietnam. I made the right call. The doctors were very professional. They took care of it really well. I've got like 7 stitches at my back now, so it almost looks like I have got some sort of war injury or something. There's a nice scar there after the surgery. I really actually like it. It's quite nice. I like these. I like when people have stitches anywhere on their body. It sort of looks cool. I don't know why. So I'm totally okay with it, especially when it's at the part of your body which you hardly ever show to anyone, unless you go to the beach, I suppose. So this went quite well. And then last Friday, I also had my wisdom tooth pulled. Yes, they extracted my tooth. It was a tooth extraction procedure. I don't know, does that qualify as a surgery? I suppose it doesn't, unless they cut your tissue, which might happen to me in 2 months' time, because I am having another one done in about 2 months. I can't wait for that. Actually, I was so nervous, guys. You have no idea, because when I was young, I used to hate dentists. Anything to do with teeth, I've got some sort of trauma from my childhood. I think it's because of the amount of pain that I had to suffer each time I went to a dentist. But these days, it's absolutely painless. They know how to anesthetize it properly. They give you a shot, like anesthetics, and it works so well. You have no idea. It's amazing. You feel absolutely nothing. The most interesting part of the surgery was that every time I have to go through something stressful, like that, I tend to crack terrible jokes, and I did exactly that. So I was telling stupid jokes when I was at the procedure, whenever I could talk. Right, you can't always talk because most of the time they are doing something in your mouth, so all you can do is like, I didn't even do that. But every time I was allowed to talk, or they were trying to communicate with me, I would try to make a stupid joke. I used to do the same when I was at university before my exams, because that's always stressful. This is my way to calm down. It's just my sort of, it's my, I don't know, like a method or approach to calming myself down just to make stupid jokes, and people around me have to suffer. I guess sometimes it can be funny because it's like some kind of situational humor, but oftentimes I bet it's pretty stupid. But anyway, the surgery went all right. I thought I was so surprised. It didn't hurt at all. Then, of course, when it started to come round, because the effect of the substance they give you as the anesthetic, it sort of wears off, right? After 1 or 2 hours, it starts wearing off. So the gum around the tooth starts getting really sore. But actually, on my first day, it wasn't too bad. I thought I would have to take the painkillers, but I only took it for the night, just to fall asleep easily. And the next few days, I did the same. I just took the pills for the night. Do you know what? It hurt the most about 5 days after. I don't know if I got some sort of infection there or something. I think it can be common for this to happen. Yesterday, it hurt pretty badly as well. Today, it's much better, and I'm glad. I'm glad that the pain is going away. Because nobody likes pain, do they? Well, it depends. There are people who like pain. You know, they are gluttons for punishment. And there are people who like to be beaten and punished, and it even gives them some sort of sexual pleasure or something. Yeah. You know, one day I will tell you about one girl that I met in Vietnam, but I'm not ready for it yet. One day, I promise. She was a bit of a character in that. But don't worry, it was none of my girlfriends. It was just a girl that I met. But what am I talking about here? You might be wondering, Zdenek, what about Vietnam? Are you happier in the Czech Republic? I wouldn't say I'm happier. I'm just dealing with these things, like with health stuff mostly, right? So I have to get this out of the way first, all these surgeries and tooth removals. It's actually quite annoying, you know, it's annoying. So once this is out of the way, then I can start about going back to Vietnam. There is another thing, and that's a motorcycle course that I will have to take. So that's another thing that is sort of making me wait here a little bit longer before I book a ticket. But of course I miss Vietnam. You know what I miss the most, I guess? The anonymity. I miss the anonymity of being in a foreign country where nobody knows you. You have a clean slate. You can turn over a new leaf, and you can meet people more easily, because I don't know why, but everyone is more, I just don't know. There's something about the way people talk to you in Asia, which is sort of like more respect, or it's hard to explain. I just don't know if my position here in my own country, in the Czech Republic, is as good as it is when I'm abroad. Even when I was in the UK, I felt better about this. I suppose it's because my sort of number one skill is English these days, speaking English and teaching it. And I think it's not that appreciated in my country. I don't know, maybe I'm just imagining all this. It's possible. But I would say that when it comes to this kind of stuff, like sort of self-respect, self-esteem, confidence, it almost feels like I'm doing better in Asia than here. Again, maybe I'm just imagining all this. I don't know. But yeah, it's just great to be somewhere. I'm going to go back to Vietnam because I said to myself that I would go back. So I would try at least one more time. And yeah, I'm not finished with Vietnam. Might not be my final destination. There could be another place I might go after that. But for now, I think I should go back to Vietnam. Right. The next thing on my list here is the Achievers Chamber. You guys know about the Achievers Chamber because I keep promoting it here on Zdenek's English podcast. It's your way to practice speaking English.
Hi, my name is Zuleika and I'm from Kyrgyzstan. I like the Achievers Chamber because I can be surrounded by like-minded and motivated people from all over the world.
Most of you are just listening. Most of you are listeners of Zdenek's English podcast. Some of you are my private students, I know that. Some of you have decided to book lessons with me, which you can of course do. But also, for some of you, it's too expensive to have lessons with a teacher. I get that. Well, that's where these group lessons come in. The community that I've created, the Achievers Chamber, it's your chance to speak English regularly with other people. This group is for B2, C1 and C2 levels, upper intermediate, advanced and proficiency levels. We've got some really great people there, some people with excellent English in the group. We had some people who also left because they realized it's not for them. It's a specific thing, you know. We have regular, we call them events. Imagine like sessions where you meet online, you turn on your camera, you use your microphone, and you speak with people regularly. And almost every day there is something, except for, I think, Saturday, there's always something. It's not just me. Some sessions are run by members, other members. We have one teacher from the UK there as well, Claire, who runs 2 sessions. So I think it's a great place to develop your fluency, to boost your confidence, and to do something for your English. Because so many people, they just procrastinate. They know they need to do something like that. They know. They keep postponing it. They keep putting it off. Well, this is sort of, how to say it? This is less stressful because you don't always have to join all the sessions, which could be a double-edged sword because then people, they are like, I don't always have to join. Well, that means I will never join, right? I'll just join like once or twice a month. Well, you can do that too, but since you pay for it, you know, you might as well join regularly, at least once a week. Or you could join every day. That's possible too. The price is the same. The price is 20 euros. And again, I know that it seems too much for some of you, but actually, it's not so much. Like just check other prices of similar groups or check prices of teachers, of group lessons and individual courses. Nothing is cheap these days. And the only way I can sustain this, the only way I can do something like this and run a place like that is if there is a price to pay. If I do this for free, I could not do that because this is my job. I teach English, right? I have to be paid for that. Otherwise, I do some stuff for free as well. Don't get me wrong, like episodes of Zdenek's English podcast. But that's because I need some sort of online presence. Yeah, it's good to have an audience. These are potential customers, right? But you never know. Or not, that's fine too. But going back to the Achievers Chamber. So you know what? I've realized that I haven't done a discount for a long time on some sort of special deal, special offer. And that's what I have decided to do now for you. I've decided to prepare a special summer discount trial. You're gonna get 75% off until the end of August. I don't care when you join. You could join now, you could join in the middle of August. Doesn't matter, you're gonna get 75% off that month. So basically, you pay monthly. It doesn't matter when you join. You always pay monthly fees, right? So is it 30 or every 31 days? I'm not sure. It's either every 30 or every 31 days. You're gonna get charged for the membership until you decide to cancel. So you can cancel at any time, and then you will just have the membership until the end of that month that you pay for. So with this special trial I'm offering, the way it works is that if you decide to join the Achievers Chamber in summer months, and I'm talking about July and August. July is almost over. August, so if you join in August, whenever in August you join, you will only pay €5 for 1 month, for the next month. And then the month after that, you will be charged the regular fee, €20. Or not, if you decide to leave. So what you could do, so the best way, in my opinion, to use this offer is to pay €5, try it, see for yourself if this is a good fit for you. Is this group the right place for you to develop your English? Do you like the people that we have there? Do you get on with them? Can you make meaningful relationships with them? Because that's part of this community. I understand if someone doesn't like someone in the group, that it might be an issue, but you should look at the bigger picture. It's about your English, right? And like in every sort of environment, there will be people that you like more, there will be people that you like less. The point is, you should always look at the bigger picture. It's about improving your English. Yeah? So that's the discount I'm offering. I'm offering a membership for €5 for 1 month. This is the best way to try it, because otherwise you would always pay, or you will always pay after summer. It will be like it was before. You always have to pay the full price of the membership, which is €20. And then you get charged monthly. Yeah? But now it's going to be only €5 for 1 month, and you can choose to stay or leave. Up to you. Okay, so that is the offer that I've prepared for you. I hope you guys like it. I hope you make use of it, at least some of you. How can you join? It's very easy. Go to my website, teacherzdenek.com. Fill out the form. There is a form you can fill out. I think you have to click the tab Achievers Chamber. There's a button at the top in the drop-down menu. I just did but I think I've been doing a good job so far. I have to say, I am impressed with myself. And I don't say this very often. Yeah, so hopefully it's all clear. If it doesn't work for you or something is wrong, you can always send me an email at teacherzdenek@gmail.com. But now or never, I think. Right now is the best time to try it. Okay. And the last thing I would like to talk about here today, because I've been recording for almost 50 minutes now, so it's been getting a bit too long. The last thing I want to talk about is my motorcycle course that I want to take. And that's going to be something that scares me. I don't know if I have been scared more of the surgeries that I had to have or this one, to be honest with you. Because, you know what, I do have a driver's license. I did my course when I was around 20 years old, but I never really owned a car in my life. So driving a car, for me, it's like something that people don't understand. I'm a man, I'm a guy, so everyone expects me to be able to drive and to understand engines and cars, but no, I'm not that kind of guy. I'm sorry. I'm not. And part of me doesn't care, and part of me knows that this is something I should overcome. I should overcome my fear. I should pluck up the courage and just learn how to drive. And also, living in Vietnam, it's impossible not to learn how to drive at some point, because everyone has a motorbike there. So some people, they just learn by doing. Yeah? It's just trial and error. But I want to feel confident. I don't have the confidence. Someone was teaching me how to drive. I had a sort of girlfriend there in Vietnam, and she was teaching me one day, and I was doing okay, I thought. But the reason I really want to do it properly is, and I will pay for an expensive course. The driving course is really expensive. The motorcycle course, it's, I would say, about €1,000. I will do it because, first of all, they will teach me exactly what to do. There will be a professional who will teach me everything about it, right? And secondly, If I pass the course, it will help me get the right driver's license, get the insurance if something were to happen in Vietnam, which is not uncommon. So many expats have accidents, so many expats get injured, and things go terribly wrong there, unfortunately, because people are just reckless drivers. And sometimes you just have bad luck as well, because somebody else will hit your motorbike. Somebody will knock you down, right? Sometimes it's not your fault. So these are the reasons I have to do this. It scares me because I don't like speed, that's the problem. Like even when I ride my bicycle, when I'm on my bicycle, I just don't go very fast. And I think I'm a good cyclist. I think I am, but I'm just not a big fan of speed. That's why motorcycle is a bit frightening. It's a frightening prospect for me, Anyway, I've recently started watching some YouTube videos, and I've been speaking to ChatGPT, asking all sorts of questions about motorcycles, as in what are the do's and don'ts of driving a motorcycle, how to pass a motorcycling course, and all that. I'm stressed. I've already been to a doctor who had to do sort of a checkup on me, to test my ability to recognize colors. I think this is about the traffic signs. If you can read the traffic signs, they were testing my ability to hear and see, and everything is great. I'm in good shape, so I passed that. So I already got this sort of medical checkup. What is it like? What do you call that? It's not a document. I forgot what the word is. It's like an application kind of form, something a doctor has to fill out. I don't know the name for it. But anyway, now it's about paying to that person, to the teacher, like someone who will be the driving instructor who will teach me. And I'm just hoping it will be someone patient. So I'm not a stupid guy. I think I can learn. Right? If I put my mind to it. And I'm definitely able to pass the theoretical part because I've already done it once. I did it when I was 20, so I think I remember most of it anyway. It's general knowledge anyway to know the main traffic signs. So I think I'm okay with that. Maybe some of those harder ones I will have to brush up on. So that part I'm not scared of at all. I don't think I'm a stupid guy for that. But it's more about the practical part, because you will have to train your muscle memory. Right? So you will have to know where the clutch is, where the throttle is, the brakes, the indicators. Indicators, right? Is that the right word? When you signal someone that you turn, you need to use indicators. I think so. And that thing, you have to do it all at the same time while following the traffic rules at high speed. It is a bit scary, right? So that's why you need to do the test. You need to have several lessons with a professional who will be telling you what you're doing right, what you're doing wrong. And then at the end of all this, there is a test with a guy that will either tell me that I passed the exam or I failed the exam. And that's scary because if you fail it, I think you have an option to do it again a few times, but then you have to pay for it. And it might scare me. And I think there is a possibility that I fail it. Like, I will try not to, of course, but there is always a possibility. And that's annoying because I want to go to Vietnam, as you know. So it sort of adds extra pressure. It creates additional stress. But I think I can do it. I think I can do it. It's just about staying calm for me, which I think I should be able to do. I'm no spring chicken anymore, right? I think I can manage my stress well. I will probably be making some stupid jokes as usual. But you know what? This is useful. And even if I fail the test, which I hope I don't, but even if I do, at least I will get some basic, I'll learn some basic skills. And then when I go to Vietnam, I will be less scared to buy a cheap motorbike and start driving it. Yeah? So that's the plan. Okay, listeners, we have come to an end. We've come to the end of this episode, I should say. I hope you enjoyed it. I hope you like everything I talked about. And if not, then that's fine too. There must have been a reason you listened to the end. So that's good. That's good. Thank you very much for staying till the very end. I really appreciate it. Yeah, don't forget about the things I told you about. Subscribe to the Footglish podcast. Make sure you check out teacherzdenek.com, and there you have the option to join the Achievers Chamber. Just fill out the form and we will take it from there with a 75% discount for 1 month if you join by the end of August. All right, and that's all I wanted to talk to you about for today. Take care, everyone, and I will speak to you soon. Cheers. Bye-bye.
Thanks a lot for listening. For more information, visit my new website, teacherzdenek.com, where you can find out about my speaking group for high-level English learners called the Achievers Chamber, and download my free course, Unlocking Your English Potential, 8 Secrets to Fluency. That's teacherzdenek.com.